Hey, YouTube and Facebook. Anyways, so earlier I posted a picture on Facebook of me preparing to set up a Sega Saturn Modchip on my Model 2 Sega Saturn. The world did not explode, nothing imploded, everything actually works. The first time I fired it up for testing purposes, it did not work, and I realized that's because I didn't have a good connection to power for the chip itself. Everything else was fine though, so I corrected that, and now it works, which is awesome. So, works for originals, works for backups, and whatnot, burnt discs, homebrew. So basically, some pretty cool stuff. So I've seen, I've shown some videos where I was using an action replay cartridge to boot, that was modified in order to boot the games. It had some custom bootloader on it. I'm not doing that anymore. I actually installed the chip. I don't have to worry about that anymore. I'm not aware of any problem games with the mod chips, other than imports, which are not compatible, without using either pseudo Saturn or an action replay or patching the ISO to the correct region of your console. So, that being said, domestic copied games work just fine, as well as homebrew. As far as I know, there are no known problem games with the chips, but then again, nothing's 100% compatible when you're using unofficial stuff, so I'm sure there's something out there. But so anyways, let me show you the Saturn, what I did. So this is a Model 2, so the install was actually fairly simple, which is hilarious because I've been putting it off. I've had this chip for years. I was a bit confused. Reason being, this chip is designed with the Model 2 in mind, and I used to have a Model 1. Now, you can use it in a Model 1, but in order to do so, you have to make some serious modifications to the chip to get it to be fully compatible. I'm talking cutting traces, making jumper wires, all this crazy stuff. Which, after I bought it, I was kind of like, well, I don't know if I really want to do this. This is an awful lot of work when I could use a swap trick, and because pseudo Saturn wasn't out at the time. Which pseudo Saturn made it a whole lot easier. But anyways, basically, I've been holding on to this chip for a long time. So I originally had a Model 1. That one bit the dust, so I replaced it with a Model 2, but so much time had passed that I didn't realize. I got mixed up, thinking that the Model 2 was the one that was extremely difficult to install it in. So I did some research today, because I recently found my chip that was missing, and I did some research, and it turns out the Model 2 is what it's designed for, so that's actually the super easy install. There's only 2 wires to solder, the rest is all plug and play, like literally. So I put it off for nothing. And luckily the chip still works, even though it's been lying around for quite some time. I wouldn't be surprised if it ended up buried under something, whatever, at some point in time. But it still works, amazingly. So, I got my Saturn apart here. So this is the chip right here, this red thing. Plugs directly into the motherboard. And sits in between that and the disk drive. So we have this cable that plugs directly in here and runs to the disk drive. Now there's 2 wires. There's a blue one, I don't know if you can see that too well, and a red one. The red one is power. Literally goes onto one of the pins of this, sorry you guys can't see it, of this power socket here. It has to be soldered directly on. Do not just blindly do it and wing it. You need to look up the instructions and find out exactly which pin, otherwise you could blow something up, or zap yourself, or start a fire, whatever. Don't do that. I've insulated everything with electrical tape, so you can't really see exactly where I connected what, but there's a really, okay, see this IC right here? The original method of hooking up the blue wire was to one of the legs here on this small IC. Very risky business because that's a very small solder point. You're likely to bridge something or possibly even damage something while you're trying to solder to it, just because the space in between the legs is so small and the points are so small. So somebody figured out something called the AB method, where you literally take the blue wire and connect it to another point on the chip itself. That's actually the signal wire. And what that does is it creates like a jumper where it sends the signal that goes to this IC that tells the disk, hey, this is authentic, whatever. It basically goes in, and instead of going directly to this IC with this method, it gets rerouted back into the chip, which is plugged into this ribbon cable, which somehow makes a connection with the disk drive that way. So that's pretty cool. But anyways, so no more swap trick for me. I don't have to use Pseudo Saturn anymore for backups or for games that are otherwise burned. For those of you that aren't aware, there was a recent exemption to the Digital Millennium Copyright Act in the U.S. U.S. only, obviously. Basically by the Library of Congress that was enacted recently. Basically, old games for consoles like this can legally be pirated as long as you don't distribute them yourself. So no BitTorrent, no nothing like that, because by default you're automatically sharing the content even while you're downloading. Don't do that. But you know, you can make copies for your own personal use as long as you don't redistribute. And that being said, it has to be a game that's no longer commercially available whatsoever. So if the game's available on, say, the Wii U Virtual Console, or the Wii Virtual Console, Xbox Live Arcade, anything like that, it is not eligible to be copied. It has to be something that's no longer commercially available. Of course, Section 117 of U.S. copyright law still applies, so if you don't believe me, you can look that up right on copyright.gov. But anyways, so that basically means if you legally purchase a piece of software, computer software, which video games are technically computer software, you're allowed to make a backup copy of it for your own personal use, even if it's still commercially available. I'm not a lawyer or a legal expert, so I'm just sharing the information that I know, but when in doubt, check with somebody who's a professional who knows more about that. But anyways, so the chip's in there. Pretty nice. So I don't have any screws in my case, so I'm just going to pop this right back on. So I tested a few different games, including a piece of homebrew as well. So I'm just going to do a quick video showing that. Trying to get the case together, sorry. Just a moment. Oh, I see. My signal wire, the blue wire, is getting in the way, I think. Alright, one sec, guys. Something's not sitting right. Okay, good enough. Alright. Good enough for the purpose of this video. Oh, and as you can see, no action replay card is plugged in. Alright. And you're not going to see the Pseudo Saturn menu come up either, because there's no cartridge plugged in. Plug this in. And of course, this is a great project for people that are fairly new to soldering. But for legal reasons, I do have to warn you, I'm not responsible if you damage your own console, hurt yourself, somebody else. In the process of doing this, I mean, you do have to use like a very hot soldering iron. Also, you know, mistakes happen. You could make a short circuit, something like that. Things could go wrong. So, when in doubt, leave it to a professional that can, you know, install this chip for you without having to worry about you messing it up. But it is fairly easy for somebody who has basic soldering skills, but still, for legal reasons, I have to warn you. So anyways, so I'll show you an original first. This is my original copy of Sonic Jam, which is fairly scratched, so it skips. The audio cuts out on some of the games. Sonic 3, for example, doesn't even work at all. So I do have a backup copy of it that I made that actually works perfectly fine, and I actually copied it off this existing really scratched up disc just a few minutes ago, and it actually read it and burnt it fine. But here's the original, just so you can see it doesn't affect original playback at all. So I'll move this a little closer. This is just the stupid, I don't have a CMOS, my CMOS battery is dead. So this is just the language settings and stuff that I have to go through pretty much every time I turn on the console, because I need a new battery. So this is an original, not an import or anything like that. And again, this chip does not work for imports, so unless the ISO is patched to the correct region or you're using it in conjunction with a cartridge that can let you do that. Just takes a minute. So here's Sonic Jam, and I'll go straight to Sonic 3 so you can see that it doesn't load. Yeah, I apologize. I have a CRT TV, so it doesn't come up too great on here. But here's Sonic 3. I know for a fact on the original this doesn't load at all. It actually kicks me right back out to the menu because it's so scratched. So I'll show you. Blammo, nothing. And then I can reload it again, and it'll just, I have to choose a different game. Sonic 2, the audio is really bad. It just keeps cutting out all the time and doing weird, strange things. So next I'll show you the backup copy that does work. The only catch I noticed with this Modchip is in order for it to actually load a burnt disc, you have to already have the disc in the drive, I've noticed, and have it completely off and then turn it on. The reset button might actually work. I don't know because mine is jammed, so I can't test that function. But a little bit of Googling could get you the answer on that one too. But I know if you, from this menu or whatever, if you open the drive and put in another disk, it does not work. Unless it's an original. It fails the authentication because apparently the chip must turn itself off after the initial boot or whatever. So that was the original. Doesn't really work. Here's my backup copy of the really beat up copy that I just tried, and this one actually works fine. So starting from it's a cold boot, and of course I have to go through this stupid menu pretty much every time. If I turn it off and immediately on again, it usually holds the information, but there was a delay there because I'm doing a video, and yeah. Yeah, one sec. Sorry, guys. Alright, that's loading anyways. That's okay. Alright. That's coming up. Just skipping the intro. Start button, and I'm gonna go right into Sonic 3 so you guys can just see that it does work. I mean, you don't always get this lucky where you have a beat up game and you put it in there and you copy it or whatever, and it'll let you copy it, because if it's in really bad shape, a lot of times it'll just keep erroring out and won't even let you copy it, but I got lucky. Start, normal. There we go, didn't kick me out. There's a classic Sega. And I'll go into the game a little bit here just so you can see. I'm going to select a new file. Whoops, I forgot I can't skip this. I hit pause and thinking I could skip the intro. Yeah, you really can't see that, but... There's Knuckles causing havoc as usual. So, there's a game, and it works. So, now I'll just move on to the next disc. So here, we have Doom for the Sega Saturn. Yes, they did actually make a version for the Sega Saturn. So, booting that up. And it's not giving me that menu because I was quick enough, apparently. Sometimes it holds a little bit of a charge, just enough to save it in between. It's Dune. Now this game is kind of sluggish on the Saturn, probably due to the fact that the hardware was way ahead of its time and developers couldn't wrap their heads around it. In comparison to a PC or even like the PlayStation or N64 versions of Dune are much better. Like once you get into the actual game, let me get in real quick. You'll see what I'm talking about. It's kind of sluggish, but that's just the way it is. See what I mean? When I move around, kind of sluggish, but I know it's hard to see, guys. Sorry. Again, really old school TV. But alright, anyways, that's enough of that. So, we're on to the next disc, which is actually a homebrew disc, which I've shown in one of my Pseudo Saturn videos. This is from the Joe engine, one of the demos that Johannes Fetz made, basically, just for testing purposes, basically. So this is just a sprite animation. That's all it does, literally nothing else, and I did not just do that. And you know why I make backup copies of my discs. Okay. Fire that on. And here we get the CMOS menu again. Yay! Apparently it's 1994 right now. Because I just left it at the default date. Yep, and that's literally all it does. It's just like a sonic ring that spins around. That's it. But just to show you an example that homebrew does work as well. So, pretty cool stuff. No swap tricks anymore, no Pseudo Saturn, none of that stuff. Pretty cool. I did get this Modchip a couple of years ago from www.segastyle.com. Great website, or at least it was. The website's still up there with a lot of useful information, but when I checked it today, it looks like his shop is gone. Looks like he's no longer selling Sega products, or unofficial Sega products, I should say. Don't know what's going on with that. I don't know if he just doesn't have the time anymore or what's going on, but he does have a lot of very useful information still on his site, and maybe he's planning on bringing the shop back. I have no idea. But his name's Brad Graham. He's awesome. There's also, if you're looking to get a Modchip, currently you can get them from www.racketboy.com. Brad was actually, from Sega Style, actually selling the same, pretty much the same device that Racket Boy is selling. So they're both the exact same device. They function the same. So, you could always grab it from there. Pretty cool. Like I said, the chip's pretty plug and play. There's only 2 wires to solder. That's like unheard of. That's amazing. So, really cool stuff. Just wanted to make a video showing it off and how cool it is. Alright, see you guys later.